Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cosmic Perspective. On today's episode, I'm going to sit here and ramble about some shit. So this is the 20th episode, which is a cool little anniversary. Real proud to have made it this far. And just want to talk a little bit about how it's going. So the first thing is podcast is going pretty well. Every month, my downloads are increasing. Still a small number, but I'm proud of it. I mean, I'm pretty proud of where it's at, honestly. So all in all, I got no complaints. Things are going well. I'm having a blast doing it, and so that's how I know I'm doing the right thing. So I'm gonna keep doing it. All in all, life is real good. I'm turning 24 on Thursday, so I'm pretty excited about that. That'll be cool. I'm gonna actually go on to my first float experience. So sensory deprivation, for those of you who are unfamiliar. This concept was introduced to me through Joe Rogan, as I'm sure most people who have heard of it. And I'm excited. Jzoey and I are going to go, and we're going to really experience what it's like to just have 100% just your mind. And I think all in all, it'll be just like a really interesting experience and something that I'm sure I'm going to want to do more than once. I plan on going in and just kind of like meditating beforehand, getting into the fucking zone, getting into that like mind space where you can kind of just, you're already fucking so relaxed and chill that by the time I'm in there and I'm in the float tank, it's like I can just dive straight into that super psychedelic state of mind. So I'm super excited about that. That'll be super dope. And later I'm gonna go out to dinner with some people. So all in all, man, life's good. It's been an awesome, a little over a year here in Chicago. I'm super excited that the weather is warming up. Oh my God. So happy that the weather's warming up. I will say, going 4 or 5 months with just like sometimes negative weather and 30 degrees, 20 degrees. It's like that shit is fucking relentless, man. And Chicago did not want to give up the cold. I mean, this week is like the first week where pretty much every day in the week is like at least 40s, and the rest is like, like 50s, 60s, 70s. So I'm so happy about that change. It's going to make life here even better, because then I can actually spend time outside. And today was like so nice. Today was like 80 something. It's just perfect. This is the shit that I miss from Florida. I don't miss a ton, but I do miss the weather. I know I've said it like 1,000 times on the podcast, but that's like my biggest complaint about living here. I went to Jzoey's art show. So Jzoey, for those of you who don't know, Jzoey is a common guest on my podcast, and he's also my roommate, as well as like one of my best friends here in Chicago. And I went to his art show, and man, this thing was so cool. There was like multiple levels to this place. It was at a place called Metro, which is also known as Smart Bar, and it's in Wrigleyville, in Chicago. So it's right by Wrigley Field. And this thing was awesome. I mean, we had like all sorts of talented artists. I met a couple artists who I think I'm going to have on the podcast later this month. So those should be cool. And I'm going to have them talk about their experience. And we'll kind of, I'll probably have Jzoey come on and talk about his experience as well. But really, just the art show was awesome. I mean, there was like, so one of the people who I want to have on as a guest was a glass blower. Most people had some sort of like traditional medium, whether it was photography or painting or digital art. There was this one girl who had like, basically there were pictures that she took in the city, and then using like Photoshop or something in the background had like holographic, they didn't move per se, but they're like shiny, like holographic type images of like Hubble pictures or like Starscape type stuff in the background. And that shit was fucking awesome. I really wanted to buy one. I didn't. It was like $80, and I was like, I could probably use this $80 somewhere else. But man, it was cool. It was cool. If I had room on the walls, maybe I would have been convinced to do it. I think I know. Oh, of course, I don't have my fucking phone on me. But I think I know what her Instagram is. I think it's Angie Star Photo. something like that. Follow her on Instagram. It's pretty awesome. She basically has the same pieces that she had on display. She has them like as like moving images on Instagram, so they're actually like interactive images, where like the sky moves or the space moves. Like there's one where it has like a galaxy. It's like a spiral galaxy picture, and like the galaxy literally spinning. So that I thought was fucking badass. But a lot of really talented people and a lot of cool people that I met. So I really enjoyed that experience, and I know Jzoey did too. He sold some art and got to showcase his stuff and got to learn a lot about just presenting the art. And I think that in and of itself is its own valuable experience, not to mention the actual venue was awesome, and it was just a good time. There was just a great vibe there. So there was a bunch of things that I want to talk about, so I'm going to kind of just talk about them randomly. So one thing is that I've been working a lot on doing a lot of writing. So I haven't been making a whole lot of video content, but I have been, kind of putting my nose to the grindstone on the writing front. Been doing a ton of writing for this. I'm not going to reveal too much about this because this thing, I want to keep this shit kind of, keep this shit top secret. But I've been working on this project that I think has the potential to be like a multimedia type franchise, and I'm going to leave it at that. But it's awesome, and it's been a lot of fun. I've really been enjoying writing it, and I've pretty much been writing every day for like several weeks now, of this particular piece of content, and I think a lot of you people will like it. So another thing that I kind of want to talk about is something in terms of like my ambitions of things to put online. I want to start doing, excuse me, I want to start doing like Facebook and Instagram live. To be honest, like fuck Facebook, so I kind of prefer Instagram, but I'd like to try doing some more like live streams and stuff. And so as time goes on, expect me to go live on those platforms a little bit more. And, like whether it's Jzoey and I like working in the studio, if he's like working on some music, or if he's collaging or something, or if we just are fucking sitting around, we're hanging around, we're feeling inspired, having a cool conversation, we might bring people in. That's one of my favorite things that Jason Silva does, is he does these live streams where he just, he might just be with like a couple friends or something, and they're just having like a cool ass conversation that essentially you just kind of get to hear in on. And it's not quite the full on commitment of like a podcast, but it's, like a spur of the moment, like 10-minute type live stream video. So those I think are super dope. And I want to find a way to start integrating that into my more weekly practice of some kind. Let's see. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is Kanye West. How can you not talk about Kanye West at really this really divided time that we have in this country? Kanye West is like the epitome of how to fucking divide people. I know people are like getting super mad at him over his tweets and stuff, and here's the thing. I like Kanye West. In fact, I kind of love Kanye West. Do I think he's nuts? Yes, definitely. He's definitely crazy. But do I love what this guy represents? Yeah, I kind of do. I like that he's like this, egotistical, braggadocious rap guy. The same reason why people like Trump is probably the same reason why fucking Kanye likes Trump. But he just has this charm to him where, he says some shit that's like fucking wild, but then he says some really dope shit, and he's got a solid mix of it. And so one of the things I was really fucking with was his tweets that were like more like inspiring. Before he did the fucking Trump tweet, he was dropping a bunch of like cool ass like tidbits of knowledge. So I'm gonna pull up his Twitter here and like just read some of the stuff that I thought was dope. Of course, this motherfucker tweets so often. I gotta scroll to the bottom of his fucking timeline just to find them. But yeah, I mean, I think Kanye West he's a marketing genius. This guy definitely knows what he's doing. He's not trying he's not trying to just put out a project. Like, he's trying to stir people up and get people interested in it before he does it. Come on, man. How many days ago was this shit? Damn, he tweets so much. I didn't realize how many tweets this motherfucker had. Okay, well, before I get to the tweets, because I'll eventually get to them, I'll scroll to them while I'm talking. The fucking Lift Yourself song, dude. Holy shit, man. That was fucking hilarious. That was hilarious. Like, we're talking the fucking hardest beat ever. Like, this beat is awesome. He's hyping you up, and he skips the whole first verse and just like gets to the point where he's like, yo, this verse right here, and then fucking scoop diddy poop, whoop diddy poop scoop, scoop poop, poop. Like, come on, man. I was dying of laughter when I heard this shit, because I'm like, oh, he fucking just trolled me. And I don't know what's wrong with Kanye, that he felt like he had to do that for the controversy, but I guess he did. I don't know. God damn, dude. How many fucking tweets are you going to tweet? This isn't going that far back, man. Kanye West. I'd like to meet with Tim Cook. Yeah, I'm sure Tim Cook doesn't really care to meet with you, Kanye. Oh, my God. Like, no offense, dude, but Apple's pretty happy with Drake right now, I'm sure. Let's see. Keep America Great, Kanye 2024. Dude, Jesus. He got his... Yeah, there's this tweet with Make America Great Again. It's just, the funny part is like, he's like unknowingly supporting a dude who's like oppressing his own people. That shit's kind of funny to me. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I get it, right? Neoliberals are not really feeding into the poor communities. Like, they're not really helping them. And so he's like right to call out Obama for not really doing much for black people. But it's just like, Trump ain't the answer either, bro. You know, they're both awful. Both two heads of the fucking same dragon. Dude, I can't find these fucking tweets, man. He apparently tweets like 1,000 times a day. And that's funny. Yeah, I don't know. I can't fucking find the tweets. But he dropped some fucking knowledge where he's like talking about how, like, you know, school basically beats the inner child out of you, and they like try to teach you how to behave and how to act and all these things that prevent you from like tapping into that inner creativity that we're all born with, and then we're like just constantly beaten down. So that part I really fuck with, and that's the part of me that loves Kanye. And then of course the other part is like the parts where it's like, ha, Sway, ha, you ain't got the answers, Sway. That shit was funny as fuck. That interview, if you guys haven't seen it, like, you have to see it. It's he goes off for no reason. Sway was like trying to help this motherfucker, and he's just yelling at him. But Kanye West, man, fucking crazy. He dropped that Ye versus the People as the second song that he dropped, and it was like him and T.I. basically going back and forth. And I thought that was an interesting thing. Also, again, not a fucking song. What is this album going to sound like? I have no idea. But I can tell you that everyone's going to listen to it because it's fucking Kanye. He built up all this hype around it. He's learning from his wife to find ways to have people to talk about you. The only difference is Kanye's actually talented, and there's no talent in the Kardashian family. The only talent they have is being able to whore out their children and ruin their mentality before they grow up. Was that too savage? I'm sorry. I fuck the Kardashians. Sorry, guys. I don't know you personally, but you just seem like a huge problem for America, in my opinion. Speaking of albums, you listen to that J. Cole album, KOD? I love J. Cole. I did not love this album. I liked parts of it, but I definitely didn't love it. There's something about the album that is like missing something, and musically it just isn't super interesting. But at the same time, he had great bars and great flow, and yet it somehow didn't all come together for me. You can't deny the greatness that is J. Cole, and you can't deny the greatness that's put into the album. However, it's not really a great album. It's like a solid album, I would say. I liked it better than For Your Eyes Only, his last release, but I still don't love it. I don't know. But I want J. Cole to succeed, so I support him. And all in all, like, I like the message that he's putting out there, so I'm not really going to complain about it, but it's just kind of, I don't know. And yet, at the same time, if another artist dropped that album, like a lesser artist, somebody less well-known than J. Cole, I think people would praise that album for the ability of some other artist to be able to do some of the things that J. Cole did. But because it's J. Cole, we expect him to do more. I expect him to do more. And I felt like he didn't quite do it. But he was definitely shooting for something, and I appreciate the shot that he took. So I'll at least give him a little credit there. Just didn't love it. I don't know. That being said, though, ATM, that song's pretty fire, and the music video's interesting. And Kevin's Heart, that music video was interesting too, especially because he actually got Kevin Hart to do it. Yeah, I don't know. New music, man. King Los is supposed to fucking drop his album. He was supposed to drop his album or mixtape or whatever in April. He said by the end of the month, and I guarantee you this motherfucker didn't even drop it. I'm going to look it up now because now I'm curious. Let's see. Let's go to King Los's Twitter. According to @IamKingLos, one of the times my girl bodied me on a track. So he has a song with his wife that apparently he's promoting, and his wife bodied him on it? I find that hard to believe, dude. No offense, bro, but your wife's not nearly as good of a rapper as you are. Lola Monroe. Apparently they have like a TV show or something. I never fucking knew that, but somebody told me that they used to watch them on some TV show on, is it on E? Or is it on BET? Might be on BET. I don't know. Shit. It ain't for me. But some reality show where he's on there. 18 release projects and 410 survival kit being mixed right now. Bitch, you said it would be dropped in April, and you're saying it's being mixed on April 30th? You fucking procrastinator. Wait until the end. And, not to mention, it is now May 1st. This motherfucker still has not posted it. Interesting. Believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. True that, man. True that, King Los. I'm still waiting on that project, though. Especially after the last one. I was so hyped about it. I had a whole podcast about it. So, obviously, you guys know how I feel about it. But, I don't know. I just want to see it. Dude, what the fuck? Post Malone's album, this is another album that I guess I should talk about, too. Post Malone's album is officially platinum already? It just dropped. It's already platinum? The fuck? I don't know. I have not given it a lot of time. And I definitely like parts of it. I definitely like aspects of that album. But I guess I'm not like a big Post Malone guy. I like him purely through my experience of watching him on H3's podcast. For those of you guys who don't know the YouTubers H3H3, aka Hee, they're really funny. They have a podcast. They've actually had like fucking like Bob Saget on, which is actually surprising. They just had Ninja on, the famous Twitch streamer who live streamed Fortnite with Drake. Whoa. And yeah, they got a cool thing going on. They have a bunch of classic videos that are super entertaining, and they're definitely some of my favorite YouTubers. I don't know where the fuck I was going with that. This is what happens when you do a solo podcast, people. You'll lose your train of thought, and I purposely didn't want to go in here with a super topic of any kind. Although I do want to talk about something, I guess, because none of what I talked about before was anything. No, I want to talk about something that I've been told that I should talk about it, because it's like it's a thing that I think not enough people know about, and as per expectations of me, it is indeed related to consciousness and psychedelics. Without trying to pigeonhole myself into a particular category, I am going to talk about this for a little bit. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, there is a concept called microdosing. And this actually applies to all sorts of stuff, not just psychedelics. You can also microdose cannabis, aka marijuana. Marijuana is something I used to smoke. And now I arrest people for it. Sorry, Obama. But yeah, so microdosing is basically where you take a sub-perceptual, because we got to use big words here, a sub-perceptual dosage of a particular substance. So in the case of lysergic acid dithylamide, it is basically like 10 to 12 micrograms. And a microgram is spelled out UG as the abbreviation. So milligram is mg, microgram is UG, but the U is not really a U, but whatever. And basically, it gives you the connectivity of the brain, the unification of your brain working in unison rather than compartmentalized, which is what it normally does in the normal conscious waking state. And it gives you that extra bit of creativity, energy, attention to detail, all these like subtle little enhancements. And I really do believe that it kind of gives you almost a superpower of sorts with your intuition and your ability to lateral think. The hard part about microdosing, something like LSD, is that most likely you are buying the shit from the streets. And if you buy it from the streets, you really have no fucking idea how powerful these tabs are, and you really don't know how many micrograms are in it in the first place. So to gauge an accurate microdose can be indeed quite challenging. And so that's something that can be more scientifically done, but it still is all dependent upon the potency of the individual tab that you are using. One of the ways that people like to accurately measure theirs, assuming that they know what the strength is of their tabs, which is a fucking broad assumption, but assuming you knew that your tabs were 100 micrograms, you would actually want to dissolve this tab in distilled water. And it has to be distilled because chlorine in our normal water would actually destroy the LSD. So you actually can't do that. But you dissolve it in distilled water, and then you put it in a dropper. And that dropper basically allows you to control the dosage perfectly. So if you dissolve an entire 100 microgram tab into the water, then you know each drop should be a percentage of that tab. And so the way you do it, you measure it out so that you put a certain amount of water in it so that every drop, like basically one drop, is a microdose. And then you would just continue to use that vial, and you have to store that in a cool place. You got to make sure you protect the potency of the LSD, and this allows you to effectively use it as kind of a nootropic. It basically becomes a nootropic. And for those of you who don't know what a nootropic is, because honestly, I feel like most people don't, and I don't really blame anybody for not knowing. Nootropic is a cognitive enhancer, so this would be like caffeine. Another popular one is L-theanine, which caffeine and L-theanine are found naturally together in green tea. There is like lion's mane, which is something I've talked about before. It's not really it's a nootropic, but it's not in the traditional sense of like you take it, you feel it. But basically anything that's like that, where it's a cognitive enhancer. It's meant to boost focus. I mean, Adderall's one that also counts. Boost focus, alertness, improve memory. Any things that are involved in enhancing your cognitive abilities, we would consider it a nootropic. And so when you microdose these things, you're not tripping. It's not tripping. And if you are tripping, you took too much. It should be a really subtle enhancement to your day, a slight, just little edge that you get. And when you do it, it certainly puts you more in that creative state. It's pretty dope. I'm a huge fan of microdosing. I've been microdosing since I started experimenting with psychedelics. And in the very beginning, I definitely had no idea what the fuck I was doing. But over time, I started doing research. And I now, at this point, have microdosed quite a bit. So I've learned kind of the ins and outs of like what has been effective for me and what they're effective for. And it's going to change from person to person just because, drugs affect different people's brains differently. But what I've learned is that the acid or LSD microdose is super effective with like creative thinking things. So like I feel like if you were like a math person or a coding engineer, that would be prime for that. You would definitely think more creatively. You'd come up with interesting lines of code, alternate solutions to things that you maybe in a sober state would not come up with, just because it's kind of outside the box. And because your brain is working in unison rather than as compartmentalized as it normally is, you definitely are able to kind of merge senses together a little bit. And that's kind of like where some people, when they're on a trip, will get a form of synesthesia. And that's basically like you're like, you see colors when you listen to music, or, you're mixing two different senses together. And I think it's a useful skill if you work in the creative field, more so, but I think it's definitely useful to like engineers and scientists and stuff. I feel like a scientist doing an experiment on a microdose would you'd probably come up with some fucking interesting ass hypotheses, and you probably would come up with some interesting ways of testing those. So I don't know. I'm like a big fan. I've always believed that if somebody who really knew particle physics really well, or somebody who knew like astrophysics or something like that, if they did psychedelics, and maybe a lot of them do, but if they did psychedelics, I think they would have an even better understanding of reality. And it's not like I think these drugs give you that understanding. It's just more of like the way it allows you to view reality and to see how easy it is to alter your perception of events. I think that same information about how malleable our perception is would greatly enhance somebody who already has the foundational skills of any sort of like mathematics or something that describes the core of what our universe is all about. So who knows? Maybe a bunch of astrophysicists are super trippy dudes. I'm sure a ton of them smoke weed because, like, smoke weed, look up at the stars. That sounds fucking awesome. Especially through some of the fucking telescopes that they get to do it through. But I've always been curious, like what can people learn from those type of different states while thinking about the same things that they think about in their normal state? And what different angles can you get from it by just experiencing a different state of mind? And that's what I like about microdosing. So I do feel like LSD is more the mathematical, sciencey, or writing. So for me, I like writing on a microdose because I feel real creative. I can come up with all sorts of plot lines, characters, ideas, and I can genuinely like think it all out. It's kind of cool how when I'm writing in a microdose state, I feel like I see visually and hear the scene I'm creating more so than when I'm in a sober state. And it's not, I can achieve great things in both states. So it's not like I try to like mix it up. So it's, I write sober and I'll also write high. on cannabis, and then I'll also write in the microdose state. And I find that LSD is just like perfect for that, and it's great for productivity, and it also has a solid duration, so you're going to be feeling the effects, although rather, I guess you're not supposed to feel them, but you're supposed to experience the effects for at least 6 to 8 hours. Whereas like if you were to microdose mushrooms, which is a totally different animal, I'll get into that in a second. Mushrooms, you're going to feel for like 4 hours maybe. And again, you're not really supposed to super feel it. So if you're super feeling it, you probably took too much. That being said, as somebody who, does it often and is pretty comfortable in that state of mind, like sometimes I'll take more than a microdose, but less than a trip. And I can handle that state of mind pretty well. Like you can ask anybody, nobody would know that I was, that I was in that state of mind, which is kind of cool. But it certainly still gives me that like enhanced creativity, appreciation for the little things, and a little bit of time dilation, which is something that's characteristic of psychedelics. Your perception of time is like way off. So the differences between LSD and mushrooms, specifically when it comes to microdosing, is that mushrooms I find is more of a playful, creative, loose, childlike mentality. And that does not always play well with productivity. So I would not say that a mushroom microdose is the most ideal thing for productivity if that's what you're going to use it for. However, it is an amazing thing to use for a nice day off. If the weather's nice outside and you want to go outside for a nice walk. A walk through nature is amazing on a microdose. I think things physical with your body, I think a workout would be great on a mushroom microdose. Same goes for LSD, but probably more so for the mushrooms. And then Joe Rogan's jiu-jitsu friend swears by it that he's like better when he's on his microdose of mushrooms. And I do believe that your, I guess like physiological awareness, or I don't know what to call it, but I do think that is more enhanced. You're a lot more in tune with how your body feels. So doing a nice yoga session, or a meditation session or something like that on a mushroom microdose it's awesome. You definitely feel really in tune with yourself, and it's just cool. All in all, I recommend meditating on either one of them. Either one of them when it comes to meditation is like you really can just hit a deeper place much quicker than in a sober state. But it's fun, man. It's fun, like mixing up your days. And I think the major key to like make sure you don't end up basically just like tripping all the time is to not treat it like that, though. Like not treat it like it's like, oh, it's a special thing, I'm gonna do this. It's like, no, you should do it and then do something normal. And if you hype it up like, oh, I'm microdosing today, I'm gonna do some ridiculous stuff, then you're associating ridiculous stuff with that state of mind rather than, oh, I'm going to microdose and then still go about my business. Because when you microdose and still go about your business, it then helps you kind of bring that state of mind in the days that you're not actually microdosing. As far as the microdosing regimen goes, don't do it back to back. So it's like if you're going to microdose, you take a day off. You'll still feel an afterglow for that. You'll still kind of have that the next day. You'll have a similar vibe. And then the following day is basically like a sober reset day. And then you microdose again. You can do it more than that. Ultimately, I would say play around with it, right? Figure out what works for you. Sometimes I can do it more often than that. Sometimes I'll only microdose once a week. I don't really have a set regimen that I follow when it comes to that. But that's just because, I don't know, I feel like I really respect the substances a lot. So I don't feel like I abuse it in a lot of ways. But does that mean that I have days that I do maybe abuse it? Of course. I'm fucking human. And like anything that makes you feel good, you're going to be inclined to do it. But it definitely is cool. I did mention that microdosing also can apply to cannabis. And that is something that I had only begun to do after I got a vaporizer. And I've had vaporizers. So for those of you who've known me for a little bit, I've had vaporizers since my sophomore year of college. However, I had used vaporizers in my freshman year as well, but I only owned my own in my sophomore year. One of my roommates and great friend, Russell, he got a home vape when we first moved into our apartment. We had lived in dorms in our freshman year, and we all kind of met on the same floor, and then we lived in our own apartment the following year. And when we lived in our own apartment, I bought a bong, he bought the vape, and that was like my first experience with like hitting bags. So similar to like a Volcano, except it's like way cheaper. We had the Aerizer Extreme Q, and I actually have a newer version of that one here, and it's a great little machine. I love it. And basically, vaporizing allows you to control the high a lot more than just fucking smoking a joint or a blunt or smoking a bowl or something. And that's kind of one of my favorite things about vaporizing, is I feel like I get to control how high I want to get. And it's all about kind of doing it in ranging temperatures as well as doing it in, ranging amounts. So one of my favorite ways to microdose is actually to use one of my portable vaporizers. The very first portable vaporizer I ever got was the original PAX. And for those of you who don't know what the PAX is, it's kind of like the Apple vaporizer type vibe. It's not actually made by Apple, but it certainly looks like it. And even their packaging was basically designed in the same way, of like that sleek white cardboard material, that soft white material that Apple boxes are used, and then has like the presentation and everything of like that minimalist, nice Apple design. And that thing was the shit, man. I really liked it. The mouthpiece was a pain in the ass to clean. They have since improved that design in the PAX 2 and the PAX 3, the follow-ups to it. But the original PAX is a great vaporizer, and it was my first introduction to a portable vaporizer. And so I got that one as my own vape, since Russell's owned the home vape. And so that was kind of my first experience of realizing like I could just hit a little bit at different temperatures and change the high. And the cool thing about cannabis is that like the ratio of CBD to THC actually varies quite a bit depending on the temperature that you are burning it, or in this case, vaporizing it at. And so when you are vaporizing, for example, at like 350 to like 360 something, that temperature releases more CBD over THC. So it actually gives you less of that like stupid high, and kind of gives you more into this like creative state and that creative high, but it's not overwhelming. And so if you just hit like a little bit, you hit a couple hits at like 350, 360, it gives you a totally different type of high than smoking a bowl. Like it's not even close. It's almost like you're surprised it's the same substance in some ways. And of course the strain you use is a totally different, like that's going to add different elements to it, right? Sativa versus indica, the side effects of different breeds over another, there's a number of variables that come in the cannabis world, but still the principles of kind of the temperature range actually do apply universally. And then the rest of the minutia kind of comes from the strain that you're smoking, or in this case, vaporizing. And so I've become a big fan of microdosing kind of everything. So microdosing the psychedelics, but then microdosing cannabis. And microdosing cannabis, for me, I now use my portable vape. I've since replaced the PAX. I now have the DaVinci IQ. And DaVinci, not the painter, artist, scientist, DaVinci makes a bunch of vaporizers, and they originally made the original DaVinci look like a fucking walkie-talkie. Walkie-talkie. Had like a walkie-talkie, and the following one was a little bit sleeker of a design. It was like in a similar form factor, but had like an LED or an LCD screen or something on it that showed you the temperature. And it had this straw, and it was like, it's all right, but it wasn't like the most aesthetically pleasing. The DaVinci IQ is this sleek looking thing. It also kind of has that like designed by Apple vibe, but their packaging was definitely not as much like that, although it was still nice packaging. I'll give it to them. And so basically this thing, the reason why I picked this over the PAX 3, because I was debating between the two of them at the time when they both came out, I picked it because it has removable batteries. And so it kind of like lets you just basically just go. Like you can just keep going. And one of the coolest parts about that is like if you wanted to go camping or something, you just charge up a ton of batteries and you just bring it with you and you don't have to worry about charging it back up. Although it does charge via USB, I recommend if you have this, get an external charger. They're not that expensive. It's like maybe $20 on Amazon, and basically it can charge 2 of the batteries at once, and it charges them like fucking easily twice as fast. So anyways, I've been using that where I basically I'll hit just one smart path, and a smart path is basically a 10-minute programmable session is what they call it. And this is what they refer to as a session vape, because it's not on demand. It's something that it's best used from the beginning of the session to the end. And the 10-minute session is completely controlled by you, and you actually use an app on your phone, which of course is like fucking stoner engineering, but you use an app on your phone to control the program. And it's pretty cool. Basically, I programmed 4 different levels. I have the lowest temperature level, which for me is like 350 to then I think it goes up to maybe 370 by the end of the 10 minute. And then the next one's like 370 to 390. The next one's 390 to 410. And then the final one's like 410 to like 420 or something. Because 420. And it's cool. Like I feel like when I want to get a certain type of high, I basically just have to pick the right smart path and then take the right amount. And you know, when you learn the strain that you have and you've done it enough times, you certainly start figuring out the sweet spots of like, oh, if I just hit this like 3 or 4 times at this temperature, like I'm going to get this kind of high. And so it just gives you a lot more control over it. And I find that vaping high is a way more clear high where you still get that like enhanced creativity, but you're not like foggy. I find that my brain is not as foggy in that state of mind. So I really enjoy it, and I enjoy vaporizing, and I enjoy microdosing, all sorts of stuff. So I think that's kind of like the ideal way to get the most out of these experiences. If all you want to do is just kind of like, you know, fucking turn off and unplug, like that's fine too, man. Like that's a totally different way to use it. But I like using it as a creativity enhancer, as an idea generator, and as something that helps me get into the zone more. And man, cannabis, especially vaporizing, a little bit of cannabis and then going out on like a run or something is like, that's some next level shit, man. That's how you get into flow. You could like run endlessly when you do that. But it's dope, dude. Like I recommend trying this stuff. At the same time, if you're a child, do not do drugs, kids. No, wait until you're older and you're responsible and you actually are going to be fucking, you know, thoughtful about your usage of stuff. Like I meet plenty of people who are not equipped to try any of these substances. And I'm always very wary of who I suggest is able to handle it and who I think would benefit from these type of experiences and who I think is open-minded enough to actually try it. Because there's a lot of stigma and misinformation about these drugs. And I like to try to cut through that bullshit because I definitely did a lot of research before I ever even attempted it. I was not somebody who just was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll try it. Like, no, it took a lot before I even considered, dropping acid or taking mushrooms. So I don't take this shit lightly. Respect the drugs, man. If you don't respect them, they will not respect you and they will humble the fuck out of you. But all in all, I think you guys should definitely, if you're open to it and you feel mentally healthy enough to do it, I recommend trying it. Don't do anything stupid trying to acquire these substances. They are illegal, so I'm not going to suggest anything in regards to that. But if you are able to find a connect and somebody that you trust and you are interested in trying these things, do research. Test your shit. Please test your shit. Get a fucking kit from the bunk police, bunkpolice.com, and make sure that you know what you're taking is what you're taking. Because that's like the biggest thing. Mushrooms are easy because you can just fucking tell it's a fucking mushroom and you can tell when it looks like one of the common mushrooms. But acid, you don't know what it is. And there's a lot of research chemicals out there that people are going to try to pass off as acid. Be wary of that shit. Test your shit. Buy an Ehrlich test. Get it from the bunk police. Make sure you know what you're taking. And then if you're going to take it, do some research. Google some shit. There are plenty of good YouTube channels out there that actually are all about harm reduction and teaching you how to properly use these substances. Don't just fucking take whatever I'm saying and just fucking blindly take it. I may respect this stuff and I may take it very seriously in regards to using it, but I'm probably leaving out a ton of information or disclaimers that I should be telling you. So don't take my word 1,000%. I want you guys to think for yourselves ultimately, but if you are interested in trying it, there are some really awesome resources out there that can definitely help get you started. Reddit is a great section for things like microdosing, because you can ask people who are actively doing it. And there are a ton of threads all about microdosing and optimal strategies and ways that people have kind of varied the different dosages and their on and off days and all that. And just definitely do some research. There's even some books out there that are about microdosing. And I'm sure you guys have read probably some of these articles about Silicon Valley people microdosing. So there's a lot that microdosing can offer to somebody who is inclined to try these kind of things. And if you're interested in trying psychedelics, if you feel, mentally mature enough and prepared, then I think they can be a wonderful experience and something that can truly change the way that you see things. So take this shit seriously. Enjoy it. It's a good time. Like, I don't want to make it seem like it's fucking like school. It's not school, it's a good time, but there's a lot of insight that can be found when that's your intention. So, set your intentions clear, whether you're microdosing or actually tripping, and put in some real effort to explore yourself. I think that's the best part about psychedelics is it's sure, you'll learn things about the nature of reality and the world and perception, but you'll learn a lot more about yourself and the way that you think about things, the way that you tend to communicate with people, the way that you treat your relationships, all these little things that you might just be kind of doing and kind of unconsciously just like going through life without even realizing you're doing it. And this gives you a real chance to sit back, reflect, and analyze, like, what am I doing? How is my behavior? Am I treating the people around me the way that I should? Am I respecting people's time? Am I respecting people? And those are the questions that I think are most useful to ask in these states of mind, and to get the most out of the experiences is to focus on those kind of things, at least initially. There's nothing wrong with having just a fun trip and a nice day and whatnot. Like, I'm not knocking that either, because I've definitely had plenty of those. But I think ultimately the true strength in these substances lies in your ability to self-analyze and to reflect and to think deeply about some of the larger things, man. Think about your fucking purpose here on life, on Earth and in life. I mean, why are you here? And even if there's no actual objective reason, because that's fine if you don't believe that there is, you can create one. And there's no reason why you can't create one, because we are the meaning makers. We are the people that create meaning in our lives. No one else creates meaning for us. We create meaning for ourselves. And you could argue that other things create meaning for you. If you're a religious person, you'll say your religion gives you meaning. If you're a workaholic, you might say your job gives you meaning. But we're the ones who create the meaning. It's what matters to you. And so focus on the things that matter to you. Focus on what drives you and what pushes you to be a better person. And keep doing that, because we need more people being better people. Keep trying to be the best human beings that you guys can be. And have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye.